Hello there, everybody. This is Travis here, back with another Pokemon Stadium 2 Draft League. We're doing it again this year. These are our teams in their draft order. We have the Minnesota Suicune returning from last season. I've got the draft order wrong there on the left, so just ignore that above me there. They're in order of the logos here, not whatever is there on the left. But we've got the Minnesota Suicune. We've got the Magikarp Crew Crusaders. I don't know why he needed to have Crusaders and Crew in there, but there you go. Smooch 'em or lose 'em, the Squirtle Squad, Pokemon Power, My Little Ponyta, Nightmare AC, and this season my team will be known as the Quinwood Quillfish. The reason for that being that, A, with me finally winning last season, I didn't want to tarnish the Slasher's name if I came out and stunk this year. And also, I wasn't sure I could get both of the Pokemon that were in my logo back on my team this season. Um, Speaking of these teams, this season I have decided I will refer to, instead of trying to be all mysterious with the owners, I am going to refer to them by name, but only by first name, so that they still have some anonymity. I don't think that's the right word, but you know what I mean. They're still anonymous. Um, for example, we have Iris, Brian, Tate, Tara, Karen, Haley, Tyler, and Travis. Um, as the managers, owners, whatever you want to call us. This was one of our more interesting drafts for a variety of different reasons. For one, let's see, I think I have the chart back here. Sure do. Um, for one, according to our draft chart here, we had some interesting draft picks. And by interesting, I mean crazy, exciting, stupid, a little bit of everything there. Um, and I thought my team would be decimated this season. I thought, because in the past, when someone has won, the others circle like hyenas and just kind of pick apart Pokemon from the roster. I got 2/3 of my team back. I got 8 of my 12 back from last season's championship team. So that was a surprise. One of my sleepers was sniped. Someone else picked them before me. But yeah, without further ado, we're going to do our draft analysis here. I'll try to maybe correct the draft order above me here in post. We'll see. If it does match the logo order, then I corrected it. If it doesn't, I didn't. So just throwing that out there. So what did everybody get? I'm going to give you guys my live analysis here. I have not prepared anything ahead of time, but this will give you an idea of what we're working with. If I can get it to turn on here. There we go. Okay. Well, maybe. You're going to let me? There we go. Okay. Starting with the Minnesota Suicune. The Suicune had the first pick of the draft, so they went first in every round. I think they had a pretty good team. I mean, you look at this here, they got Bayleaf, Suicune, Articuno, Entei, Zapdos. This person, Iris, she always likes getting the legendaries if they're available, so I'm not shocked that she got 4 of the 6. Bayleaf's one of her favorites, and Bayleaf has been an MVP contender before. So those are decent picks, those first 5. Espeon is good if it's not fighting a dark type, because it doesn't really have a whole lot it can do to a dark type in Pokemon Stadium 2. Vaporeon is solid. Umbreon at least gives you a dark type to counter psychic types with. Typhlosion will be interesting. I like Typhlosion a lot. However, I'm not sure the Pokemon Stadium 2 moveset is great. I think it has Flame Wheel, if I remember correctly. So, like, Scizor, I've been saying for years, could be better than it's done statistically if someone used it the right way. Maybe Iris will be the one to use it the right way. Kingdra has no weaknesses because there's no fairy type back then. And all the dragon moves, I mean, there's 2 Pokemon that have Outrage and a couple that have Twister. So Outrage could be a problem for Kingdra. by those two specific Pokemon. I believe that's Dratini and Dragonair, both of which were not drafted. And the few Pokemon that have Twister, um, yeah, Twister's not that great of a move. So Kingdra should be pretty much fine. And then Miltank's just fast and has Stomp. It can flinch things into oblivion. So pretty solid roster, really. Again, I haven't looked at the others here yet in this video, but that's at worst case scenario like a B plus. Like that's a really solid roster, top to bottom. I'm not sure there's any superstars, but there's no bad Pokemon on that team. So that's somewhere in like the B plus, A minus category. I'm gonna say probably more B plus. Magikarp Crew Crusaders. Well, I'm glad this one's early so we can get this one out of the way. I don't mean to be blunt because all the people we're playing with in this league are friends and family. But my friend Brian that picked this team, I'm not sure if he was picking for like laughs or if he was picking just his favorites or what he was doing. Because it seemed like every other pick was either atrocious or great. For example, I understand wanting to have your mascot on your team. Picking Magikarp with the number 2 overall pick, when you think of all the Pokemon that existed in Generation 1 and Generation 2, granted we couldn't draft Mew, Mewtwo, Lugia, Ho-Oh, or Celebi. But even with those 5 gone, you think of all the Pokemon available in those first 2 generations, Magikarp, number 2 overall pick. That didn't set a good tone for the rest of the draft. Tentacruel, however, last year's MVP, oddly enough, drafted after the Magikarp. Jumpluff can be solid. Ditto's interesting because there's no abilities yet in Gen 2, so there's no imposter ability. So if Ditto can outspeed something and transform, it could be a good Pokemon, or at least decent. But if it gets outsped, it might, like against Kadabra, for example, it might die, faint, whatever you want to call it, before it even gets to do anything. Psyduck, we have seen have some success in the past. Wobbuffet is a sort of like half a Pokemon when I factor in these equations. And the reason I say that isn't because it's good or bad. Basically, it's going to depend on if it's me running the show for the team or the computer. If the computer is running the show, I mean, the computer doesn't cheat, but let's face it, it seems like it cheats sometimes. If the computer is running the show, Wobbuffet is absolutely going to guess correct on if it's a physical move or a special move 9 times out of 10. So Wobbuffet will be very difficult to defeat if it's on the team being controlled by the computer. If Wobbuffet is selected a week that I'm in charge for this team, there's a 9 out of 10 chance that the game is going to pick the opposite of what I pick. If I pick counter, it's going to be a special move. If I pick Mirror Coat, it's going to be a physical move. So Wobbuffet is sort of situational. It could be really good when it's the week that the computer is battling for Brian. But I think it's only going to be good in those situations. Rattata, another pick like Magikarp, where I don't understand why Rattata and not like Raticate. Slowking, on the other hand, though, much like Tentacruel, good pick. So, like, kind of going back and forth here. Zubat getting picked was interesting. I do think Zubat has decent moves, if I remember correctly. So maybe the moves sparked that pick. Otherwise, I can't understand why Zubat instead of Golbat. Crobat was gone at this point, so I know that wasn't on the board. Electabuzz, good pick. Mr. Mime, decent pick if it doesn't hit a battle against a dark type. But then after having 2 good picks in a row, and 3 out of 4, maybe even 4 out of 4 if Zubat ends up being good, with Meowth. So, like, I don't know. So I would say the Crusaders are probably my pick to be, at least in the preseason rankings, the team at the bottom. But that certainly doesn't mean that they're going to stay at the bottom. We've had years where the team at the bottom was like the 3 seed. So it doesn't mean that they won't do well. I just I feel like what's going to happen is we pick 6 each week. I think the Crusaders, again, depending on if it's computer or me, has somewhere between 5 and 7 really good Pokemon. The problem with that, though, is all of the competitors are going to know that you have 5 to 7 Pokemon to use. It's like, we're not going to plan for Rattata. We're not going to plan for Meowth. We're certainly not going to plan for Magikarp. It's going to be easier to figure out like to make our selections on what we're using against you when you've got 5 to 7. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe through cutting and free agency, like we can adjust the team throughout the season. It'll depend on what Brian wants to do. That's kind of where Brian's team is. Smooch 'em or lose 'em is actually, I think, what Brian was trying to do with his team. Smooch 'em or lose 'em was meant to be a funny gimmick as well as a decent team. The gimmick, for the most part, is essentially Pokemon you wouldn't want to kiss. So we have Jinx and Smooch 'em to start. Beedrill, you don't want to kiss a bee with a giant stinger. Arbok, you don't want to kiss a cobra. The only one I don't get that fits that is Jigglypuff is supposed to be cute. So, like, there was nothing, like, appalling about it. And Arcanine is a dog. Now, don't get me wrong, no one wants to go make out with a dog. But I feel like a lot of pet owners would kiss their dog on the forehead or something. You know what I mean? So I don't quite get Jigglypuff and Arcanine in that mix. But the rest of it, like, Pinsir's a bug with a terrifying mouth. Electrode explodes. Feraligatr is an alligator. Like, the rest makes sense for that joke. I just don't understand those two. But either way, I mean, I think it helped because I think Arcanine will help this team a lot. But I think this was a really well-done team. It's funny, and it has a chance to win. I would put it, again, in kind of that B plus range. Right now, I'd have the Crusaders at, we'll say C. Because, again, there is some hope. There are some good ones on there, like Tentacruel. So I don't think that they're worse than a C. But if everyone else is a B or better, there's still a gap there. So far we have B+, C, and I think Smooch 'em or lose 'em gets a B. It's not by much. Like, if a B+ is an 88, Smooch 'em's an 87. You know, like, they're close to it. And they might prove me wrong and show they are better than that. Squirtle Squad. The Squirtle Squad is a first-time player. They clearly went for a lot of older Pokemon that they were a fan of. But they were decent. I mean, Charizard's pretty good. Blastoise is okay. Venusaur's good. I'm a massive Blastoise fan, by the way, so I don't mean to sound like I'm insulting Blastoise. It's more the moveset on this game. If he's not using Hydro Pump, he's stuck with just Mud Slap. So, yeah. Staryu is a former MVP. I can't believe that went in the 4th round. Ninetales, fast fire Pokemon. Jolteon. Zap Cannon's going to be a little annoying, but if it does hit, it's going to hurt a lot. Flareon. Scyther we saw from my team last year is pretty good. Raichu, again, fast. Rapidash, fast. A lot of speed on this team I'm noticing between, not so much the starters, but you look at Staryu, Ninetales, Jolteon, Scyther, Raichu, Rapidash. That's pretty speedy. Gyarados is an interesting one because its Stadium 2 moveset is awful. It does not take advantage at all of its physical attack. They're all either fixed damage moves or special moves. And then Togepi is clearly just like a mascot pick or a cheerleader. So, I'd put this one in the B category again. It was really solid until like the last 2 picks. It's kind of got the same problem that the Suicune has, though, where there's no great Pokemon. Like, Smooch 'em or lose 'em, at least Jinx is like always on the ball in this in these draft leagues. And Smooch 'em's pretty decent too. Minnesota Suicune, after Bayleaf, they're all just kind of in the same category, if that makes sense. Whereas Squirtle Squad, yeah, Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur are all kind of in that group, but then you have a former MVP Staryu. You've got a lot of speed. Like, you really, except for Togepi and Gyarados, that's a solid team. So I'd give them a B as well. So far we've got a B+, a C, a B, and a B. Pokemon Power. First couple Pokemon are returners that the Power like to pick every year. Karen went out and got Tyranitar and Moltres. Tyranitar played in the most games last season, so it makes sense. Moltres is pretty solid. Really, the only thing holding Moltres back in this game is the amount of Poke Power, or Power Points, actually, is what they're called, despite a lot of people calling it Poke Power. It's Power Points. That's what the PP stands for. If it wasn't using Fire Blast and Sky Attack, like, those aren't bad moves, but that means you only get 10 good moves. And in one of the longer drawn-out battles, that becomes an issue. If it had a third good move, like, even like an Ember or something that wasn't good, but just something it could use more on top of Fire Blast and Sky Attack, that'd be amazing. But still pretty good Pokemon. Haunter's a really good pick. We've seen it do some good things before. Houndoom, Alakazam. Like, I really like this core, like this first five. Machamp can be good, but as we've seen, it's kind of situational. Machamp's been on bad teams before where it didn't do well. Last season, it was on a good team and it did do well. So Machamp's a little more situational. First five were really solid picks, though. Slowbro is an interesting pick. I think it was picked to be like their main water Pokemon, so I do think that's a good pickup. Ampharos is one of those that's kind of luck based since it's using Zap Cannon and Dynamic Punch. It could be the best Pokemon on your team, it could be the worst Pokemon on your team. Lapras is interesting. Lapras is a late game Pokemon. Like, hey, we have 3 left, they have 1, let's Perish Song it. Now, even if Lapras goes down, we win the game in a couple turns. Magnemite is decent. I've had it before on my team. Execute's an interesting pick. The only thing I can think of is it must have been picked for its high defense stat, and maybe it's typing. Other than that, I don't know. Meganium, it has Solar Beam, which can be kind of difficult to work with, but much like I was saying with Lapras, if you can get it to late game where you know Solar Beam's gonna have a chance to work, then it could work. So I'd give Pokemon Power a B+. I think that they've got a really solid team top to bottom, except for like maybe Execute, which I mean that's more just me not being sure as opposed to it being bad. I think that's a really solid team top to bottom again. So I'd give them a B+. So we've got 2 B+, 2 Bs, and a C. My Little Ponyta. This one scares me. As the reigning champ, this scares me. A lot of bulk on this team. Snorlax, oh boy. Gengar, also it's fast and scary. Magneton, that typing makes it tough because that's back when Steel resists like almost everything. Golem, it just has high defense naturally. Dugong can rest, sleep, talk, rest. Nidoking has Horn Drill. Magmar gives her a fire Pokemon. That's pretty good and pretty reliable. Poliwrath has Dynamic Punch and Hydro Pump, but it also has Mind Reader to make Hydro Pump and Dynamic Punch have an easier chance to hit. Abra's fast and hits hard. Goldeen has Horn Drill again. Blissey is tanky. And then Gloom's the only one I'm not sure about, but like from what I've looked at, I don't think it's that bad. I think it's just that I think it's a Pokemon that relies on Solar Beam, like Sunny Day Solar Beam. If you can get that set up, it could be scary. But even if it's not, the Grass Poison typing is a good pivot, like for rotating, because there is a lot of switching in and out in these 6-on-6 battles. So Gloom could be a good pivot, like a good substitution Pokemon. Like put it out there, let it take a resisted hit, and then take it back out and put the Pokemon you really want in there. So I know Pinsir is also a very good pivot Pokemon in this league. So right now, I would give My Little Ponyta an A. They are the favorite. I wouldn't go as far as A+ because I don't think anyone has an overwhelmingly dominant team this season. But we're talking like 95, 96. Like, again, if we're saying like 97, 98 is an A+, this is like 95, 96. Like, as close to an A+ as you can get without having an A+. Nightmare After Christmas. Also a very scary team. This manager has been very prolific in the league's history. They won the first championship ever. And while they haven't won another one, they have been in the championship all 3 seasons. So just like that, could have easily had 3 titles under their belt. That being said, I do think that My Little Ponyta is a little better. Just by a tad. Again, if we're talking like grading numbers, it's like 95 versus 93. Like, it's not by much. I have Nightmare After Christmas currently as the number 2 team. I think. Granted, we haven't gone over mine yet, but from the ones I've looked at, I have Nightmare After Christmas at number 2. Kadabra's just amazing. It's good every year, no matter who has it. Raikou will be interesting because it does have good special defense. That could be kind of like a tank. Lantern is a tank. I found it a little disappointing for my team last season, but I think that's because there were times where I didn't use it in the tank role. I tried to make it into something it wasn't, and therefore it didn't succeed in those matches. Houndour is always good. Skarmory, physical tank. Fearow, speed. Dodrio, speed. Ghastly, speed, and it's a ghost type. Ursaring's bulky. Nidoqueen we haven't really seen since the first year of Draft League. But if I remember correctly, it's solid. I actually had fun with Tyler talking to him about this one. Dugtrio, he drafts him every year. I think he even cut him at one point last season. So I was joking he couldn't quit Dugtrio. Dugtrio does have speed. It's just that it has to rely on magnitude. They gave it magnitude instead of earthquake. If it gets a high number magnitude, it does a lot of damage. If it gets a low number, it gets destroyed by another Pokemon doing a lot of damage. Hitmontop will be interesting. I don't think anyone's used Hitmontop in the Draft League yet since we started doing it, so it'll be interesting to see how that works out. Now we get to my team, the Quinwood Quillfish, and honestly, I think Nightmare After Christmas still holds a spot at number 2. Again, we're talking slim margins, like if Nightmare After Christmas is a 93, 94, I'm a 92. Really happy to have Mischievous and Sneasel back. Good combo there. Starmie's back. I got Steelix, which is one of my all-time favorite Pokemon. Quillfish is back. That's the one that's always on my team every year. We even named the team after it this year. Crobat is back, so we've got some speed there. Primeape is back specifically for some of those Pokemon like Tyranitar and Snorlax where you need a big fighting type hit. Fissure Diglett is back, another one of my favorite Pokemon. I love Fissure Diglett. It just gives you that random chance if you're behind in a battle or desperate that maybe you hit Fissure and things turn around. Clefable, I picked it for a couple reasons. It's a normal type, so that'll help against the ghost Pokemon in the league. It's got Ice Punch, which I think a lot of people overlook. Girafarig, I was very excited to get. That was my number 1 sleeper I wanted to get. It's got Agility, Stomp. So the idea, it also has Psybeam and Crunch, but the big part was Agility, Stomp. The idea, with it being Psychic normal, put it out there against like a Ghost or a Psychic type. Agility the first turn. And then you can Psybeam, Crunch, Stomp, everything from that point forward. With an Agility, it's a lot faster than Kadabra. So the idea, put it against Kadabra. Kadabra hits it with Psychic. You Agility, Stomp. If you get a flinch, you just Stomp again. Even without the flinch, you might resist and beat it anyway. So like that's just one example. It's not specifically for Kadabra, but like I'm excited to have Girafarig. The other one I wanted was Parasect, which got taken by Tate's team, the Smooch 'em or Lose 'em team. Let's see. Vileplume and Bellossom are kind of like I was talking about before with like the Grass Poison being a good pivot. Vileplume and Bellossom are pivots because their typings are different. One's grass, one's grass poison. The situations will be different. If we're fighting a team with a poison Pokemon, probably going to use Vileplume. If we're fighting a team that's got a psychic Pokemon, probably using Bellossom. You get the idea that it'll be situational. Or maybe I'll bring both, or maybe I'll bring neither. Who knows? All right, with that being the case, let's look at our schedules here. We are doing double headers again this season, but all the double headers will be done by week 9. They could have been done by week 8, but I took a week off in the schedule where we didn't have any double headers. So instead of shoehorning too many in at once. So the first 9 weeks, there will be double headers. And then weeks 10 through 14 will just be singular matches. The first 2 with double headers will be myself and the Quinwood Quillfish. And the Magikarp Crew Crusaders. We'll just get the double headers out of the way. So the first matchups of the week, there will be, doing the math in my head, I think 5, it might be 6. Well, let's see. I am going against the Minnesota Suicune, so that'll be 1 matchup. We have Nightmare After Christmas against My Little Ponyta. I'm sorry, let me start over. I need to say home or away so that the other managers have a better idea of what they're preparing for. Quinwood Quillfish will be controlled by me against the Minnesota Suicune. Nightmare After Christmas will be controlled by the computer against My Little Ponyta. The Pokemon Power will be controlled by me against the Squirtle Squad. And Smooch 'em or Lose 'em will be controlled by me against the Magikarp Crew Crusaders. So that's the first 4 games. The 5th game, so yeah, there are 5, will be the Magikarp Crew Crusaders being controlled by me against my own team. And for those of you that are new to my channel, because we have picked up a lot more subscribers lately, I am very fair. I keep track, if I can scroll down here, of my record against the CPU throughout the season. And I'm a very prideful battler that wants to defeat the CPU. So while I may be rooting for my team, the Quillfish, to win, I will still give it my all to defeat them with my opponent's team, because a dream season for me would be to go undefeated against the computer. That will never happen because the computer has moments. Again, it doesn't cheat, but it sure seems like it sometimes. And with some of the wackiness in Pokemon, like Thunder, etc., there's never going to be an undefeated season. I'm always going to lose to the CPU at least once. But I would like, my dream scenario would be to be undefeated against the computer to show off my battling skills. And I have done some research this season. It seems like the first few years, every year we booted this game back up, I would make a mistake like trying to use Nightshade on normal Pokemon, because there are Pokemon games where that works. This is not one of them. And there are some other things as well. Like I think I flew into a Thunder last season, which that threw me off, because I knew at one point in my Pokemon career that Thunder would hit something while they're in the air. But because you never see Thunder in competitive battling, or Fly for that matter, I just didn't think about it. But I've already brushed up on some of those things, so I don't make those same mistakes early in the season. And I'm excited. This is going to be fun. We are also going to have a new playoff format this season to give the lower seeds more of a chance to have an upset. We'll do instead of like a best of 3, we're going to do a 2-match playoff setup where the 2 teams go against each other. I will control both teams in 2 different matches. So like if it was me versus Tyler, a rematch of the championship last season, I would control myself the first game, Tyler the second game. We'd take the point differential and add it up. What we do is the team with the higher seed has a 1.5 head start on the point differential, so that we don't have like, where basically the lower seed has to work for it, but because there is a game where I get to control the lower seed has a chance. Whereas in the rest of our history, I think there was an upset like maybe once or twice in the 3 years we've done this in the playoffs combined. So this way the lower seeds have a chance, but it's still skewed in favor of the higher seed. So we'll see how that goes. If it doesn't work out, maybe we'll go back to a different format. I know some of the players, well, a majority of the players kind of wanted to see something different this season, so we're going to try that out, see how it goes. If it doesn't go turn out well, then we'll make tweaks to it for future draft leagues. Next year, we may try to do something on Battle Revolution instead of Pokemon Stadium 2. But for this year, it will still be Pokemon Stadium 2. And I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, so there's the teams once again. I hope everyone's enjoyed the video today. This is our draft analysis, draft league announcement, like all of that kind of combined video. We will start our battles. Well, the managers will have to have lineups into me by January 12th. We'll discuss a time privately for that in the future. But by January 12th, we'll have the lineups in. I will do the recording of them battling each other. And on the 14th, it will air on YouTube. So we're not too far away. I am going to give the managers a week to try and figure out strategies, get used to their team, get through all the New Year, Christmas stuff, etc. And then we'll kick things off. I'm excited. I don't like my chances of winning the championship. Actually, you know what? One more thing before we go. I'm going to rearrange these guys to do my preseason rankings. So, yes, I think the number 1 team is going to be My Little Ponyta. Let me get the Suicune moved out of the way here. I think the number 2 team is going to be Nightmare AC, or whatever he ends up changing his name to. He has a habit of changing his name to fit something that's that he drafted. So I think my team is going to be number 3, at least to start the season. Making sure I'm picking the right one here before I try to move it. Yep. I think number 4 is going to be the Pokemon Power. I think number 5 is going to be the Minnesota Suicune. I honestly think that the returning players are the ones that are going to have the best odds. I do think Squirtle Squad's going to be... I think Squirtle Squad will be 7. The only reasoning for that, because I think they have a better roster than Smoochum, but I also think the fact that Squirtle Squad hasn't been in a league like this before, or for that matter, played Pokemon for a decade, I think that may be the difference there. And then Magikarp Crew Crusaders at the tail end. Again, just because I predict a team last doesn't mean they'll end up last. In fact, I think I've only been right one of the 3 years. So, prior to this. So, Magikarp Crew Crusaders could do a lot better. 5 of the 8 make the playoffs because we like having a play-in game for whatever reason. That's just kind of what we do. So again, if Magikarp Crew Crusaders could even get into the 5 spot, that'd be a good season. All these teams are good. I think, again, grade-wise, I think My Little Ponyta is an A. Nightmare and Quinwood are A-. I think Power and Suicune are B+. I think Smoochum and Squirtle Squad are B. And the Magikarp Crew Crusaders are a C. So that's where it stands. I'm looking forward to the first week of battles. Until then, everybody, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, that YouTube nonsense. And I'll see you next time with some Pokemon Stadium 2 Draft League battles. All right. Bye-bye.